Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Will Smith.
And I'm Donnie Hill.
Together, we form Introspective Dynamics, what we like to call a unique way of looking at the world with dynamic tools for the future. Ooh, that sounded good.
I love it.
Right? Good thing it's on recording. Otherwise, I would never remember that. So, what is it about Introspective Dynamics? What is it we do? We should start there.
Okay. Well, I think let's break apart introspective and dynamics.
Okay.
All right. So when I think about introspective dynamics, the introspective part is really like the self-reflection and having you think about, okay, who am I today? Do I enjoy who I am today? Do I want to be something different? And I think with what's happening, all around us and all the changes, people are in that question.
Yes.
Right now, and so there's this opportunity to create a new version of ourselves or a better version of ourselves. And I think the dynamic piece is there's so many moving parts in our individual lives, and we're constantly having to arrange ourselves based on what's priority or urgent in the moment. And so learning how to do that inward reflection and figure out how do we dynamically move through our life in a more compelling way and an enjoyable way, I think is really the foundation of what introspective dynamics is all about.
Love it. I couldn't have said it better. All right, so that is the who, the how, what we do, like the components of what we do. There's 4 parts that we've talked about. One is life coaching. One is somatic work. Another thing is strategy, and the last is sound therapy. It would be fun if they were all S.
I know.
So let's start with life coaching.
Cool.
I guess that's me, huh?
That's
so I'm
all
asking
you.
myself the question.
That's all you. What does life coaching mean
Thank
to you?
Life coaching, I like to sum it up as a way of finding a process. It's a process, a way of finding yourself to not only realign it with yourself, but to then give yourself a way to vet yourself and those around you in the situations you're in, giving you not only a more powerful tool, but something to keep yourself in the direction you want to be going. So what I like to do is people find their purpose. I like them to find their values and their characters, and out of that then becomes really where their mission in life becomes. And that really gives people a unique direction to start working from.
Yeah. Well, I think the part that's really important is this is deep work. I mean, you're asking people to think about their values, and sometimes what I find for some of our clients is they either haven't thought about it or they haven't thought about it in a while. And so when they get ready to do that work, they're like, wow, I haven't been living in my values for a while, or I've never lived in my values. They've always been other people's values. So I think the life coaching piece is so helpful, and I love that you're bringing that concept into this work.
Well, kind of going along that lines, a lot of people, let's face it, in the current times have to compromise their values. To realign themselves with their values, again, is going to give them a lot more power. And then out of that, we talked about finding characters. And the characters, it helps you align yourself in the world so that way you can navigate it knowing who you are. And that is something I think we've all lost in the last couple of years. I know I've compromised that in a number of different ways because, well, let's face it, I've had to.
Oh yeah, me too.
I was locked in my house for a year. So it's coming out of that and realizing where you can go with what you have and who you are. It's really important. And it's redefining that is really what we're going to be doing with that. So that leads into the somatic work, which the reason why I want to work with you is so much because of the somatic work that you do, and it's so powerful that, well, I just want to know more.
Yeah, well, when I think about somatic work, some people have heard of somatic work before, some people haven't. All somatic means is relating to the body, so it could be anything from Reiki to yoga to Pilates to working out to nervous system restoration work, which is the type of work that I really focus on. And so in our program, we do some nervous system education. And I think with more people talking about it now, the educational piece is foundational to really understanding how does that apply to you? How do you work with your own nervous system? So one of our mentors, Irene Lyon, she talks about becoming the apprentice of your nervous system. And I love that because it gives me something to work with. It allows me to be curious about this this body that
Right.
I have, and all of the greatness that it does and the functionality that it has. So when I think about some of those somatic practices, there's the education piece, but then there's also the actual kind of day-to-day practices. How do you use your senses? Like, for instance, right now we're outside in this beautiful area and we have the stream, and so learning how to listen and re-engage and reorient into the environment, I think, is so important. And really combining, the mind and our thoughts, combining the body, and then connecting it to the environment and tying those to the characters, you end up just showing up in a very different way. And it
Totally.
also helps you be more at ease as you're moving through the chaos and moving through the world.
Yeah, I like that. The whole at ease really is a huge part of what a lot of our clients are starting to work with right at the moment. It's like, now that I've aligned myself with these elements, it's like I know how to navigate. It's like I'm less stressed because I know how I'm going to show up.
Yeah, I think one of the pieces in somatic work that I didn't include is what you're tied to, and that is the sound baths. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the sound baths. I've been playing for a number of years, decades, and I've learned a few different things. And one is how to relax people. Two is that through playing, I can have different effects, whether it's through trauma, anxiety, or stress. And what I like to do is I like to play the Fibonacci sequence, which is the mathematics for the perfect spiral. And it creates a very unique harmonic that allows people just to drop into a deep space, process information, and then get that out of them so they can open up for new experiences. At the same time, really relaxing their nervous system. Sometimes, they even have a tendency to fall asleep. Who knows?
I've fallen asleep a time or two in the sound bath. So.
I take that as a huge compliment. I mean, it's just like, it's working. Like, you've relaxed so much that you can fall asleep and not even have to worry about it. It is a huge compliment, but it also says something about where we're at and just in general and where people are at, that we're having a hard time relaxing. We're having a hard time interfacing in ways, so we have to come up with these new tools and strategies. Speaking about strategies, let's go there.
Well, when I think about strategy, I really think about it in terms of road mapping. So people talk about vision and creating your 2022 vision, and I'm still not sure whether or not I'm set on that,
right?
Or what that even means. But I do think it's important to have a destination,
Yes.
or at least an idea of a new direction. And so when I'm working with our clients on strategy, it's really about helping them identify that new destination and anchor that new destination and embody it, and then providing them with different options. So in the past, maybe they've only had option A, and option A only gets them so far.
Right.
And I really want them to see, no, you have more. You have different pathways that you can take to get to this final destination, but you might need some help identifying what you need to support you in getting there. And that's really where I spend some time digging into the strategy of what's the vision, and then what structure do you need to put in place to help you move towards your vision.
It's so fun. It's just so fun to be able to do this and work with people and watch them well, I hate to use that word, it's so overused, but they do transform or level up, as my little boy says.
Yeah.
You see so much change in such a short amount of time, but at the same time, it's a lot of deep work. And that kind of gets into, then the how of what we're doing, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So how we do it. 17 weeks?
17 weeks.
4 months. We take you through, what do we do?
We have training, we have Q&A calls, we have coaching calls, and then we have some videos that we'll be sharing with you and creating in the process, and also some tools where you actually have to go and apply the work.
Yes. Yes. And that leads into the last part of this work. It's like we can lead you to the water, but you're going to have to decide whether you drink or not and where you want to take that, or if you want to go down the stream and enjoy it, or if you want to go upstream. That's really your call. But it comes down to the practice of this work, which is really fundamental. And I think that's key to talk to people about, because some days it's challenging. And other days it's real life experiences. You go through a process, and then literally the next day you're finding yourself challenged within that process. And I want to be really upfront with people. Some days it is not easy.
Yeah.
And other days it's so easy. You're like, wow, woohoo! So you have to understand there is a balance in the work that we're doing.
Yeah. I think what I find when people are most successful in this program is when they take it little by little. You know, we're asking
Yes.
people to do some deep reflection about who they are, where they want to go, and some of it can be uncomfortable because you realize, oh, that character doesn't work for me, or I don't align with that value, or that's not my mission anymore. And then some days you're really excited, but you've never done it that way before, and so it feels like this field of possibility, but you don't have the consistency and the discipline to really move in that direction. And so I think part of the reason why we teach fewer concepts and give you more space for the Q&A and the coaching is to really help you to better integrate the process. You're going to have a bunch of questions as we go through some of the different concepts, and we really want you to get in and wrestle with them for a little bit and test them out and see what works and what doesn't, and then come back and say, hey, I tried this part of it worked and this part of it didn't, and I need some more support here. So we really want you to be successful, but in order for you to be successful, it actually means that you're going to have to constantly be in relationship with the material that we're teaching.
Well, on that note, you and I have done this together.
Yeah.
We've been working on it for a while. We have had many conversations where have individually challenged ourselves or each other, and I think that's important to bring up because it's not work we're just telling you to do, it's work that we're actually doing, and we're still evolving as we go along because it is ever evolving work. And I want to bring that to light because I think that's important for this. It's like, yeah, we're not going to say do as we say. It's like, no, we've done this. This part's tricky.
Yeah.
No, we can relate. So if you need to talk, we get it.
Well, one of the things that I've enjoyed so much about our working relationship and bringing this to our clients is that you've helped me identify some of my new characters, and one of those is being a guide. And the thought of being a guide sounded great, and then when I actually got into the work of being a guide, it's like,
Yeah.
how do I do this? Like, what am I supposed to be guiding people to? And it felt, the visual that comes to mind is that of a baby, like learning to roll over and then get up on all fours and stand up. And I think when we're getting used to our characters and finding how to navigate in the world with those, it can feel like that, where you're like, I should be able to do this. But if you haven't done it before, you haven't used this character before, then it makes it really difficult. So I love that we get to be in the process. Yes. with you all, because we get it. We have a lot of compassion.
And on that note, the practice, the day-to-day practice, and we've had some clients, like we said, like have had a conversation the next day. They're like in the intensity of that conversation, watching themselves transform, watching their characters dynamically respond, and then coming back going, I would have responded this way in the past, but this time I did this, and wow, a whole new door opened up, and that's really exciting to see, but also watch the self-reflection of that, and it's like, okay, this is how I can move forward in the world. It doesn't have to be stationary, it can be dynamic.
Yeah. When you think about some of the clients that we worked with, was there one scenario or situation that stood out for you the most?
We had one client had some great revelations in regards to family dynamics, and then the following weekend had to deal with some great family dynamics, and that was an interesting revelation to watch happen because it was in the moment, and a lot of times it's not always directly in the moment. You get to time to process, and this was like, oh wow, I have to be here in this space being this new person. And the way they resolved that was so enjoyable to watch because it was such a different way. You could tell they had never experienced like that, and how they came out. They not only came out deeper in relationship to their character, but more relationship to themselves, and that was really powerful. And from that experience, they now have a different position in the family dynamics.
Nice.
And that was really exciting to see because I don't think that would have happened beforehand.
Yeah, mine was maybe it happened about a month ago, where one of the first sessions that that I teach is a somatic practice called orienting, and it's learning how to connect mind, body, and environment. And when you first started, it feels like a really subtle thing, and you think, what am I getting out of this? And I asked our client, how's the orienting been going? And when she first started talking about it, she was like, I'm not sure if I really do it or understand it. And then she started telling me about her being inside of her dentist's office. And she said, well, I started looking around the dentist's office and I noticed there were pictures that I had never seen before. And I'd been going to this dentist's office for years. And I said, that is orienting. You are orienting into the environment. And it was like this light bulb went off where she realized that the work was being integrated, and even these really subtle practices were showing up in her day-to-day life. And so she was just beginning to interact with her environment more and more. And I think her hearing that reflection back to her made her realize all of the other areas where she started doing it. And so she would do it inside of her meetings with people. She would do it in her conversations with her family. And it really helped her realize just how much she had been disconnected to her body and how much she had gotten back into her body and how much safety she had started rediscovering in her body and within herself. So that for me was the most fulfilling.
Oh yeah, that's exciting because you get to see the direct transformation. And there's nothing like that. It's not like, oh, it's down the path. It's like, oh, here it is. Where are you going to go with that? And that's where we've been at the same time and doing this work. So I love those elements of just our own personal work and leveling up, and then watching those follow in our footsteps as we've learned and developed this process. It's like, oh, cool. It's not only is it working, but where you're taking it is actually teaching us at the same time, and that's super powerful.
Well, I think the last piece is inviting people to check out the program and join the waiting list. We're going to launch our group program in March of 2022.
Correct.
And so if you are interested in this program, we want to invite you to follow us on Instagram and also send an email to Donnie at introspective.net or
introspectivedynamics.net.
Introspectivedynamics.net, thank you. Or Will at introspectivedynamics.net.
Thank you for joining us.